Hey guys, well, we are sitting out here in Missouri and we're about to get the Nitro Fire Tradition sighted in with the Vortex Optic, and we took a little break from the deer hunting this week. We have still got the antlerless season through Sunday, and then hopefully we'll get back in the tree stand before too long. But I want to do a quick little video over getting your big bucks to daylight, and there's three instances, three main portions of the season that I really isolate on this. And number one is going to be the early season, and then the next one is going to be during the rut, and then the other one is going to be the late season going to food. And all three of these are consistently successful for me based off the amount of pressure that I put on those deer. And I'll walk you through an early season as well as a rut hunt and a late season examples here. So our very first one is going to be a 160-inch 8 I killed over beans in a couple years back, and it's a deer I hunted and hunted. You guys can jump out there and watch that. A magnificent 8-point for Southwest Missouri, and extremely blessed to be able to harvest that deer. But it was several years before I even hunting that deer before I even saw that deer. But it was just timing him. So, you know, those big bucks, I mean, they get old for several reasons, right? Number one, they're just smart, and they'll outsmart you a lot quicker than what you think. So with that particular deer, I knew that he wasn't a big rutting deer, so I knew it was either going to be late season, which in history he really was just a nighttime deer at that point, nocturnal at that point of the year. So early season, I knew that that was probably going to be my best chance. So I kept running trail cameras, just couldn't identify him. Finally jumped over a hill, spotted him as he was going over a fence back in the bedding in evening time, and I marked it on the OnX, went back in there the next evening, ended up harvesting that deer at 18 yards away. And again, you know, check that video out on KOAM Outdoors YouTube. And then the second one is going to be the early cold fronts. So again, that 160 was in September in Missouri. The second one I'm going to give you is going to be early season cold fronts, and those are just tremendous, you know. And what I'll generally do is I'll wait for that particular buck to move or daylight in the daytime on those trail cameras before I even go in. I'm not just going to go in there randomly hoping to be able to you know, successfully harvest a deer without having some sort of education or some sort of proof that I'm even going to be in that deer's area at that point. But that deer, this is before cellular cameras, and you know, I had a particular camera in there over a pond, and I didn't even know the deer was coming in there. But I checked that card, went back in a week and a half later after that next 20, I think it was 29 degrees that morning. Ended up shooting that deer inside a bachelor group. So that's another great example. And then, you know, your rut, you just got constant movement, whether that's a core deer or a non-core deer, you know, which would move in, and you know, those deer are all over the top, overall all over the place. You know, when the core deer, typically I'm going to harvest him during that pre-rut time period as he moves through this area for our does before he moves on to the next piece of property, if he does go ahead and move. And then the other one is going to be your non-core deer, which is going to be just your random deer moving in the area at that point in time of the year. And then as you get in to the latter part of the rut, into those weekends or weeks around Thanksgiving on into that first week in December, you know, that's what I'll call the secondary rutting aspect of it, where those bucks are still cruising. And that is generally a great time to hunt. I love hunting Kansas at that time, just because those deer are a lot easier to rattle in. Those bigger bucks will actually be up on their feet, from what I found, even more during that time period. just trying to find those last couple does to breed. You know, that's what those deer are here for. I mean, those big bucks, they understand that, you know, hey, I'm gonna be fat and lazy for the large majority of the year, but when it comes to that rutting time period, you know, that is their job, is to continue their genetics on down the line. And then the very last one is going to be late season, and I am notorious to put out heavy rack deer feed over in Oklahoma. I was very lucky to harvest a good deer over there last year out of a saddle. If you guys want to view that hunt, that was quite the deal. I didn't make that great of a shot, but was successful. Ended up crossing deer crossed the creek, couldn't get up, and ended up expiring inside the creek. Found him that night, but it was quite the deal on that. Along with any kind of food source, whether you have your Nix Harbor food plots, late season, you know, we've got a tremendous 3-acre food plot. The deer just continuously hammering, and I've got a lot of trail cameras over that, just waiting for a big mature deer to move through. And there may not be one, but during late season, I will typically only hunt during the evenings over a food source. And to kind of get more into that food source aspect of it, is the late season, those deer are so on edge that when I say I hunt on a food source, I really mean I'm actually going to be hunting a major trail system to that food source, because those deer will lock up on that food source and they may or may not get out there for you to give a shot opportunity. So it's just imperative to make sure you understand that, number one, there's a big deer that you're wanting to go in there and harvest, but number two, be strategic about that. Understand where that deer's coming in and out of, you know, for the majority of the time, and then lock in on that main trail system. I think you'll find that to be a lot more beneficial than actually sitting on top of a food source, regardless of what that is, you know, from agriculture to your Nix Harbor food plots to your you know, heavy rack deer feed, bait wise, if that's legal in your state. So definitely check out your legality aspect of it. I'm a big believer in, you know, if it's legal, go right ahead and do it. More power to you, more advantage over the animals there. You know, again, great for you. So we're going to go ahead and get this muzzleloader sighted in, be ready for late season muzzleloader here in the state of Missouri. And like always, hopefully you guys are getting out there in nature. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and best luck on your upcoming hunt.